Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome back to Blood, Books, and Binge-Watching. I am Megan, joined by Rachel, of course, and today we are going back to Between the Frames, our film-related kind of section of the podcast. So today we're super excited to go into the 28 days, weeks, years later. The movie literally just came out as far as 28 years later, and I'm super pumped to talk about these movies. Hey, Rachel, how are you doing?
Hello. Oh my God. We've already chatted about this, but I don't think any horror fan that enjoys these movies ever thought we were going to get 28 years later. Like the way that 28 weeks left off just left it like, okay, cool, that's the end, whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, the fact that we got this was such a surprise and my expectations were fulfilled and beyond. So very excited to dive into this. So quick disclaimer, there will be spoilers for all of these movies. So if you have not been able to get to the theater yet, you might want to skip this one until you go watch it and then come back.
Yeah, we're going full spoilers as far as talking about the movies, but we're not doing our typical beat for beat recapping
Mhm.
of them. So there's going to be little details we'll probably miss out on, but we're going to hit the big ones. So
Yep. Yep.
if you haven't seen the movie, here's your point.
Mhm.
So yeah, I kind of, as much as I want to just dive right into talking about 28 years later, I kind of want to start canonically at the beginning, where it all started in 2000.
Oh my
So we
gosh.
nearly got 28 years. Granted, I'm really glad we don't have to wait another 5 years in order to get that full
Yeah.
28-year difference. But I thought that, hey, 23 years later, and we are getting, like you said, the sequel to a movie we never thought we would
Mhm.
ever get one to.
Yeah.
So yeah, directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland. 28 days later follows the story of Jim, who is played by Cillian Murphy. Love Cillian Murphy.
Mhm.
And essentially the movie starts out though with the start of this viral infection that spreads and rages across the country. So it does take place in the UK, in England, and a group of animal activists go into a laboratory, and that's filled with chimps, and they're there to free the chimps because yay, no boo to animal testing and all that. But the scientist runs out and is like, don't let them out, don't let them out. They're infected with rage, and it's you could have. He was trying to make a point to be like, please don't let them out. They're super contagious, but these people are just like, we can't hear you, la 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 la.
Yeah.
Listen to scientists, everybody. Granted, yeah, he was doing really bad things to the chimps. One of these chimps is strapped up and being forced to watch all this violent footage. That's
Mhm.
terrible. Animals shouldn't be treated this way. However, if he tells you, hey, these monkeys are fucking contagious with this awful virus, maybe leave him alone. So yeah, they get let out. The virus spreads very quickly. Pretty much it's you get bit or you trade saliva, and then within seconds you are filled with rage, as they say. So that's kind of the very intro of the movie. And then we cut to Jim, who is in a hospital. For some reason, he is fully naked, but that's neither here nor there. 2002. So yeah, he's waking up from a coma of sorts, it seems like, exits the hospital to find that everybody is gone. It is deserted. No one to be found. Walks through London, which is where the behind the scenes of this movie is so cool that they did it on such a low budget, and we're able to have a lot of, I read that they had a lot of collaboration with the local police and things to shut down certain streets and stuff for seconds at a time in order for them to get these shots to make the city look desolate.
Yeah.
uh
They would have to because
yeah, no, there's no
busy.
CG. He is just walking across London Bridge, and it's deserted.
Yeah.
So he ends up wandering into a church, and it's so creepy. He walks in and he sees just littered with bodies inside this church. And he just is like, hello. And two of them sit up and have this very creepy look on their faces. They're just frozen there. He sees a priest. He attacks the priest because the priest is coming at him. He's like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. I'm so sorry. He runs out as all of these other infected run after him. And now we get to see these infected can sprint. These fucking infected could be Usain Bolt, okay? And this is where I say, okay, tapping out. Bye. Couldn't catch me in this apocalypse at all.
Yeah, these ones are horrifying. That's what I love about 28 Days Later is it's
Hmm.
right out the gate, just immediately so fast paced. Because
Yeah.
that opening scene with the lab is like maybe 8 minutes, right? It's
Hmm.
like not very long, and then we're thrown right into these insane zombies that are fast as shit.
Yeah, they're so fast. Like, these are some of the only zombies that still scare me to this day.
Same here.
Like,
Yeah,
say what you will about, like, they're infected, they're not zombies, they're fucking zombies, okay?
yeah.
It's a zombie, it's zombies,
These
whatever.
and these in the World War Z ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jim encounters these things. He's sprinting. He then is saved by two people who are Selena and Mark. And so they save him, kind of give him the lowdown, and he explains like, I was a delivery guy on a bike. I got hit by a car and I woke up in a hospital, and for whatever reason they took all of my clothes. And, so they kind of all share stories about kind of the origins. Mark's is actually very tragic and terrifying when he talks about losing his sibling in a crowd and like having to crawl over people in order to get on top of this like tourist booth as
Mhm.
the rage virus spread around them. Like, terrifying and awful. And they eventually go to Jim's parents' house because obviously he was just thrust into this world. He does not understand the dangers of being out here, really. He's only had one encounter with these things. So he's very eager to get there. They get there, find his parents, unfortunately deceased in their bed, but it looks like they kind of died of an overdose. They purposefully took pills in order to go peacefully in their sleep. And I wrote down the note that they left. With endless love, we left you sleeping. Now we sleep with you. Don't wake up. What a note.
Yeah, and they wrote it on the back of his childhood picture.
They did.
Yeah, which I thought
So
was
like holding on to him and just, yeah, so it's really tragic, and he finds him like that. But Selena's like, you should be grateful they went peacefully. Not really
mhm.
something you can say for the majority of people in the country these days. And so they are kind of hunkering down in the house. They're like, it's getting late, we're gonna have to stay here for the night. And during the night, Jim is kind of walking around with a candle, and the infected are smart because they're not undead. So one of them spots the flame, bursts into the house, and they have to fight the infected off. Mark unfortunately gets bit, and Selena wastes no time. She hacks this man to death.
Mhm.
And it's very, I think it's a really cool moment for her, where cool might not be the right word, but I mean, it's cool seeing she's badass,
Yeah.
but also just showing like the kind of person she is. Like, yeah, her and Mark have been traveling together for a little while now, but you got seconds to take out the imminent threat that is about to be your friend. And so even though he like begs her not to do anything, she hacks him to pieces. And it's really rough. And she tells Jim, she's like, that happens to you, I'm gonna take you out too. No hard feelings, it's just how life
Right.
is now. And he's like, okay. So it's like, all right, well, wake up. And now we see they leave the house. They're kind of walking through the city and see a building that has a balcony with some like flashing lights. So they're like, that's a sign of life. They walk over to the building and are chased by more infected up the stairs. Part two of where I would have been dead. Not only running, sprinting up the stairs. Goodbye.
Right.
Leave me behind. I'm gone. As if cardio wasn't bad enough. Now you want to have me do cardio on the stairs?
We
Not
also
even Nesta.
we can now, I guess, yeah, we could now share with you guys Megan and Rachel lore that we have learned about each other. We are both not athletically competent.
No, I'm not wearing my brace right now, but
I
no.
pulled a hamstring while I was warming up to play kickball a couple of years ago. Okay, we hadn't even started.
Yeah.
I was down for 2 days. 2 days.
Hey, I will say, I tried to not wear my brace. I probably should have worn the brace today, but yeah, I had a post wedding after party last weekend, and we were like, hey, let's play wiffle ball. And I said, okay, yeah, let's play
Right.
wiffle ball. I smacked the shit out of the ball. Great. But then in my attempt to quote, slide home, as I'm telling everybody it was, your girl face planted, punched myself in the face. My glasses cut my other side of my face. My wrist might be fucked up. We're just,
I'm so
we're doing
sorry
great.
you're hurt. I'm very sorry you're hurt.
There's a picture. There's a picture of it. I'm gonna get it. There's a picture of me just face down with my hand out trying to like touch home base. It's one of the greats.
So, yes, unfortunately, if we were actually thrown into a zombie apocalypse, not be good for us.
Peace. So yeah, they make it up the stairs and they're met with like the super imposing large man who's in like full riot gear with a shield and a baton, and he's like, down the hallway to the left, and they're like, okay, great, thanks. And they run and he fights off these things, shoving them back down the stairwell. And then they're knocking, and now we meet Hannah, who is a like teenage girl, and her father, who is in the riot gear, named Frank. He goes from this super terrifying man, who is played by Brendan Gleeson, I should say. Like, this movie is like filled with greats.
Yeah.
But at the time, so Selena is played by Naomi Harris, and obviously Cillian Murphy is in this. They were unknowns at this point, and I believe the director Danny Boyle like wanted to cast unknowns. So Brendan Gleeson and then one other cast member, Christopher Eccleston, were the only two like popular actors in this movie.
Yeah, because rewatching it as an adult, I was like, when Frank came on, I was like, Mad-Eye, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's like Mad-Eye, Doctor Who. What's happening? So
yeah, really interesting to see their, I guess their, what is the term that I'm looking for? Just their entire portfolio, right? From then up until now.
Yeah, it's really something. I love going back and watching these movies and like only knowing after the fact that like, oh yeah, no, this is them starting out.
Yeah.
Like, I love going back. One of my favorite things about watching Lord of the Rings again is knowing like, hey, this is Orlando Bloom's like first role out of like acting school, essentially.
Yeah.
So I just love stuff like that. So yeah, this is Frank and Hannah, father and daughter, living in their apartment, and they pretty much decide, we can't stay here. We're not getting water. We're running out of food. It's not safe. And we also heard on the radio about, a military base not far. And I have a car, so let's go there. So the four of them decide, you need us, we need you, let's go. They drive out, and there's a really fun scene that they have like a shopping spree in the supermarket.
Yeah.
Because obviously, since the infection ran rampant so fast, and it's pretty much everybody's dead, no one has really like scavenged anything. So it's like a fully stocked supermarket. Frank has a real fun scene where he's like grabbing 5 bottles of really good scotch. And, and knowing, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember if has a British accent. I'm pretty sure he has a British accent in the movie, but knowing that he is actually Scottish, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm just like, I love that. And then just one part where like as they're leaving, he leaves his credit card on the counter, and I'm like, wow, what does that say about my anxiety? Where I watch that and I'm just like, someone's gonna steal it.
Right.
Don't leave that behind. Someone's gonna take that. It's like, girl, please. So they're out on the road. They have a little mishap in a tunnel where Frank decides to go off-roading with his taxi. I swear, this taxi has the best suspension system of any car I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, even a Jeep wouldn't make that shit. Like, they drive it over a pileup inside of this tunnel.
Yeah,
and all they suffer is a blown tire.
Right. Yeah, Killian's like, or Jim, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is like talking shit in his ear. He's like, oh, you're not going to fucking make it.
And he's like, yeah, I bet. Yeah. And he just floors it over that. And I'm like, how reckless. Because, yeah, they pop a tire.
Yeah.
And then Hannah, I guess, who should have been in NASCAR, like NASCAR pit crew with how fast she fucking changes this tire.
God.
When I was watching it recently for this, I'm like, damn, she really just spins the shit out of these things. I'm like, all right, girl, go off. And so, yeah, they got the tire changed like right on time, and then they drive away, and they're like, haha, fuckers, bye. And they reach the countryside. There's a really pretty shot with a bunch of horses, and I'm like, yay, the horses are okay.
Yeah.
And then they eventually do make it to where they expect to find all of the military, but it's essentially like it's a what's the word I'm looking for? Deserted base. Like, there's no one there. There's like remnants of like bodies kind of scattered. So clearly the infected came, ravaged this whole place. It's no good. So in kind of being so angry about this and so furious about like, they came all this way, hope is all lost, Frank gets kind of angry at a bird who's like pecking on a body. and which causes a drop of blood to fall into his eye, and this person happened to be infected. Frank is now infected,
No.
and it's really sad. Like, Hannah's coming up to him and he's like pushing her away, like stay away from me. And then
Yeah.
Selena's the one who puts it together because she's a smart ass bitch. She's like, Jim, you gotta kill him. Like, he's infected. Kill him. You gotta kill him, Jim. And the second that he goes to smack him, Frank gets shot the fuck up. Like, it is not just one headshot. They shoot on his corpse on the ground right in front of his daughter. It is so rough. And
It is.
I go back and forth on Hannah and how she acts throughout this movie. And I don't know if it's a director choice to have her act like this or if it's the actress's choice. But she essentially just like looks at her dad's bullet-ridden corpse and just like, Dad? And it's like, okay, the shock. I get it.
Yeah.
She reads the rest of this movie very strange, but I do
Detached.
like it. Yeah. So yeah, detached is a good word for it. So it makes sense in the context of everything that her character is going through. It just reads very differently sometimes when you watch it, depending on what your mindset is.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is one of the only times where I really noticed how like off it can seem, because every other time I've just been like, oh yeah, she's in shock. She's dealing with what she just saw, the fact that everyone that she loves is now dead, all of that. So yeah, the military comes, takes them back to their base, which is now they're holed up in like this massive mansion and have it all decked out and protected. The whole front lawn of the mansion is like riddled with mines that they're burying. So they're like, oh, we'll hear the infected if they get here because they'll explode. It's like, yeah, okay, can't hate on that defense. And so yeah, this is where we meet Christopher Eccleston and his troop of military guys. They are trying to live what had life as they can, but they're also kind of like they got this goofy kind of way to them. Like, there's one guy who's like their chef, and he's wearing like a maid outfit, like an apron, and he's like got the chef hat on and stuff. And it's like, all right, you gotta make light of situations. It's the apocalypse. I get it. I get it. And so yeah, they're like super pumped because Jim, Selena, and Hannah just showed up with like a shit ton of food. So they're like, yeah, we got food. So they're making this big feast.
They're like doing donuts in the parking lot with the car.
Yeah. So they're just misbehaving all over the place. And so the lieutenant, who is named, I should get his name, Major West, and there's a lot of red flags that kind of pop up here and there. But inherently, like, we're meant to trust them, especially coming out in 2002, given the fact that this was like just after 9/11. Was very military, like, propaganda, if that's the best way to describe it, was very much a hot commodity in the coming years. Not necessarily that it was done purposefully for that reason, but just the way it lines up, and inherently you're like, oh, the military's here to protect us, so we assume that they are there to protect them. And Major West tells Jim that their whole plan is to like rebuild. He also shows them that they have one of their guys being held captive with a chain around his neck in the backyard, and he's infected. So he has a little private area to himself, and they're kind of studying him to watch and wait how long it takes until he starves to death. A spoiler alert, they're not going to starve to death.
Yeah.
And so yeah, after that point, they're all eating, and then they start to hear like all the explosions from outside, and so they all kind of go on red alert and like, oh, let's go defend the keep, whatever. They take care of the threat. There's like a horde of infected running at them. They take care of it. They're all fine. In the meantime, Selena has run and gotten her machete to protect herself because she's an independent woman and protects herself. And when the soldiers come back, they kind of start to taunt her and tease her about like, oh yeah, we gotta protect you. Don't you worry. You don't need that. And just start getting a little rough with her. And it's like, okay, it's not cool. Stop grabbing. So Christopher Eccleston, Major West, comes back in. And I never noticed it before, but you do hear him kind of tell one of them offhand to slow down. And it's like, so the way that this is going has always been the plan.
Yeah.
Which I never realized before, and it was like so eerie. I'm like, man, if I had caught that all those years ago, not that this plot line wasn't predictable, but Oof. But not even predictable, because then we get the line from Major West telling Jim, I promised them women.
Yep.
This Major has promised his company of men women. So that's why they're so hyped up that they have 2 women, even though one of them is maybe 16 at most.
Mm-hmm.
So disgusting. Their plan to rebuild involves raping the women to get them pregnant to have children. Disgusting. In the apocalypse, men are just the fucking worst. And there's another reason we'll won't find a lot of women in these apocalypse situations, because this is the kind of shit we worry about.
Yep.
So yeah, he says that they mean to restart repopulating the planet. And he also says, like, oh, the men were actually just becoming suicidal because they didn't see a future anymore. And it's like, it has been 28 days.
Yeah.
28 days it took them to devolve into kidnapping women to impregnate them. Disgusting. Yep. So yeah, like, they're living off scraps. So what position are you really in to be rebuilding? Like, it's so offhand that also it got me thinking about, they repopulate the earth my ass. Like, they also gave them dresses. Like, they gave Selena and Hannah dresses to dress up for them. That's not about repopulating the planet.
Yeah.
It's not. And just the fact that it's like, oh, they were becoming suicidal and it's for the greater good and all this. It's all gross. So they take Jim away, as well as one of the other army members who tries to defend Selena. So there's one good one among the group. One guy that was like, hey, I've never been cool with this. Fuck no.
Right.
And they beat the shit out of him and lock him up. But he is talking to Jim at one point when they're being held, and he starts kind of talking about how England was quarantined. It's just a massive island. No, it's just here. It's not spread worldwide. That's the first step, is they would quarantine the island. Like, that's it. And I never caught that either until I started watching this, especially with subtitles. And I was like, oh shit, how about that? Because that's going to tie into 28 years later on.
Mm-hmm.
28 weeks technically, but we'll get into that in a bit. And so when a couple of the soldiers take Jim and this other guy out to execute them, Jim ends up getting away, and they're like, oh, he's over the wall, he's done for, the infected will get him. Jim, our fucking hero, he sets the infected soldier loose on the house. He's just taking down all of these guys in nothing but a pair of pants. Yep. Like, it's great. It's pouring rain.
Yeah, he comes back with a vengeance for sure.
He does. Yeah, it's so good, especially because, like, he's covered in blood from being beaten, so it's like he almost looks infected, and he's being so ferocious. So as he's going through the house one by one taking these guys down, he also at one point takes one down and then gouges out his eyes. Fucking badass.
Yeah.
And it's the most gruesome death of the entire movie, and I love that it's done human to human.
Yeah, and I feel like that whole scene of him, like, ripping through the house and, like, being so stealthy, I was like, he becomes the rage virus. It embodies it wholeheartedly. Oh, yeah. So good.
Yeah. He eventually gets to Selena, and they do kiss, so they're making out, and then it also, I totally skipped over it. So as the soldiers make Selena and Hannah get dressed into these, like, dresses, Selena pops Hannah a couple of pills, which I imagine are probably like Xanax or something. She's like, are you trying to kill me? And she's like, no, I'm making you not care.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God.
Yeah.
It's just like the dread that you feel. And so Hannah pops a couple of these pills. And so when Jim then sets these infected loose in the house is filled with infected now. And she is high as a kite, just la da da, just walking through the house. Goodbye.
I know.
She does have the, at least, mental capacity still to hide herself when one of the infected does come around. And it's really quite badass of her, the way that she just, like, on her fingertips, she's holding herself. That was really cool.
Behind the mirror, yeah. And, like, yeah. Wild.
Especially just hearing the infected behind it looking at themselves and just, ugh. So yeah, then they tear through the house. Jim finds them. They're making out, and then Hannah tries to attack him as he's kissing Selena. And she's like, I thought he was eating you. And he's like, I was kissing her. And then he looks at her, he's like, are you stoned?
Right.
And Selena's like, it's a long story, don't worry about it. And then, so they leave the house, but first, Christopher Eccleston they find him in the car. So he's hiding like a little bitch. And Hannah, the badass. See, this is why, like, you can talk shit about Hannah. She's a fucking badass,
She
because
is.
we had seen her earlier in the movie kind of going fast and furious on this taxi. Like, she was Tokyo drifting all
She
over the place.
did. Yes.
And so she hops in this car and she's like, fuck you. And so she hops in the driver's seat and just rips around and backs the car right up to the front door of the house where the infected are now running at them. The glass breaks. Christopher Eccleston gets pulled out the back of the car and she drives forward, picks up the other two, and they're gone. But Jim unfortunately does get shot.
Yeah.
And so they're freaking out about that. We get flashes of like medical equipment and Selena, you know, doing CPR on him, saying, don't you fucking die. We cut, and then we wake up with Jim a bit later. We can tell because his hair has grown out a little bit. And they're in a cottage, and he's like, oh, the curtains too, or something. So we see Selena is hard at work at a sewing machine. And so she's now taken the dress and put the dress into like whatever they're making. He makes a comment of like, oh, I loved how you looked in that dress. And she's like, yeah, whatever. So Hannah runs in and it's like, oh, I heard it. And he's like, what? This is also a part that I skipped over. Earlier, when Jim was taken out to be executed and he escaped, he was looking up at the sky and saw a plane flying overhead. So he knows that there's civilization out there, which goes back to what this other soldier was saying, that the UK was just quarantined. They would have just quarantined the island, made it so that the infected couldn't get off, and just leave them to rot. So that's kind of evidence of that. So cut to the end of the movie where they all are running out and they've laid out this massive tapestry, pretty much, of all of these fabrics that spell out hello. And a plane flies overhead, tips its wing to let them know he saw them. And I believe it's Selena who has the last line where she looks at him, is like, do you think they saw us that time? And that's where 28 Days Later ends. So really, really cool. And there are like bits cut in a little bit, saying like with a couple of the infected kind of suffocating almost and slowly withering. So there is an indication that they're dying off.
Yeah.
But it's just not a matter of like, it's a matter of how long. So yeah, that's the first movie, and it's so freaking good. So I definitely wanted to go into some like IMDb trivia stuff, but first I want to just get your thoughts and feelings on this movie because it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I love it. I believe I was in 7th grade when I watched it, 7th or 8th grade. I want to say that I think that this was the start of my love of zombie movies. I don't think I saw one before this one. I'm like trying to track back, but just everything from like the way that it's filmed, how it's filmed very like jagged and harsh. Like it really just pulls you in as a viewer and throws you right in. And they kept that so consistent. Like they were really obviously the parts with like Hannah and her dad, and like the part where Frank is dreaming when they stop at that like ruins area out in the field. Those shots are like very much softer, I guess. I don't know if that's the right term, but just the entire scale of how it's filmed, the storyline, everything. And I did not expect the ending to be like a happy, I mean, not that it was happy, but I like
hopeful.
Yeah, I think that they just tied it very well. And then my last thought, obviously rewatching it again now with having more media in my library, the very beginning, I was like, this is like Walking Dead beat for beat.
Walking Dead is like this beat for beat.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I also got that because I just recently started rewatching The Walking Dead like a couple weeks ago. That was very top of mind for me as well. I was like, oh wow, yeah, a guy waking up from a coma in a hospital to the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, because it is, I mean, it's a great storyline. Honestly, it's scary as shit. But
so speaking of the way that this was filmed, so Danny Boyle filmed it very specifically, so especially the scenes with the infected running. So he used a type of slow motion feature on the Canon cameras that they were using, which was a lot of like handheld camcorder kind of cameras that they were using. He wanted it to be really immersive, like something that you would watch home movies out of, because it places you even more so in that time period as well. Like when you watch that movie, you know that you're watching a movie from the early 2000s. Like
Right.
it is
Right.
not crisp and clean. It's like you said, it's gritty, it's dirty, it's choppy, but
Mm-hmm.
it's done so well.
It is.
So yeah, he used this type of slow motion thing, but then shot at a high speed on other cameras. So like it shoots at the speed on a film camera that gives it basically like slow motion look,
Mm.
but doing that process on a DV camera like he was doing produces like the kind of jagged, twitchy look that a lot of the infected have.
Oh, okay.
It's also worth mentioning that the infected were all, the entire cast was like athletes, which totally makes sense why they can sprint so fucking fast. So I just love that that's also a piece of it as well. Just like the detail and thought that went into like all of those decisions. And it's one of the first mainstream films to be shot pretty much entirely digital, which I thought was cool.
Oh, that is cool.
So yeah, it's a really really cool movie. I love it so much. And I also thought just like also another sign of the times where the like quote design, so this is like IMDb trivia here. The design for the symptoms of the rage virus was based on Ebola. Ring a bell?
Oh, interesting.
Which
Okay.
is another, it's a communicable disease in primates, including humans, that's transmitted through the blood. So, Ebola is a hemorrhagic fever, which leads to rash, red eyes, and both internal and external bleeding. So, that's pretty much what the rage virus looks like and does.
Yeah.
So, it was pretty spot on and definitely gives it a much more, it puts you in the time frame as well, even more so because you got to figure watching this in 2002 when it's coming out, when Ebola was very much, you know, a hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit extra creepy. It's like watching watching The Last of Us today,
Yeah.
like, and how The Last of Us started. It's very kind of similar vibes. So that's 28 days later. One last little bit of lore for me. I know Killian Murphy is never going to watch this, so I know I'm safe with this. So while this movie came out in 2002, I only would have been 9 years old. So I didn't see it when it originally came out, but I did see it probably like 2, 3 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And first penis I ever saw in that opening. So thanks, Killian. So yeah, that is 28 days later. So now we go to 28 weeks later, which is the sequel, not so sequel to the movie. This one is far less fun to pick apart. It doesn't go nearly as deep into,
Yeah.
you know, thematic things like this. So this one is directed by Juan Carlos Fresnadillo, and written by a whole bunch of people. It's written by like 4 different guys, including the director, as well as Rowan Joff, Enrique Lopez Levine, and Jesus Olmo. And this movie, I didn't write down when it came out, but I think it was like 2012, maybe
It's
earlier.
2007.
Seven, oh my God.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So only 5 years after this. Okay.
Right.
So only 5 years after the first one. So we get 28 weeks later, which is pretty much entirely American cast.
Mm-hmm.
Among the likes of Jeremy Renner, Rose Byrne, and Idris Elba.
Right.
What are you doing here? Like, I know that Christopher Eccleston and Brendan Gleeson were like big names back for 28 days later, but like, this is star-studded, especially for like 2007. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like these people were big back then.
Yeah.
But it's also like, as we said before with how it came out, the first one came out in 2002, this one came out in 2007. The military propaganda was getting real high at this point. I'm pretty sure this
Mm-hmm.
is when like Transformers was coming out. That of course is like top of mind when you hear what's a military propaganda movie? Transformers. So yeah, and of course it's American military versus the British military. And so essentially in this movie, to go over the plot very quickly, this one is not nearly as enticing, but so yeah, it's weeks later, and essentially it gives a timeline of like the infected have started to die off. You know, the quarantine was lifted, the American military went in, started setting up a home base in London, and have like secured London essentially, and have now started rebuilding a community. So it's 28 weeks later, the community is starting to be rebuilt, and that's where we find these 2 teenagers who are quite something in this movie, and they make a lot of teenage decisions, and I just think that's not in their it doesn't paint them in a positive light. So yeah, these two kids are being brought back to London, where they're from, because they were of course evacuated, it sounds like, at the beginning of the pandemic, or not pandemic, the beginning of the apocalypse, and they're going to meet their dad, who we saw at the very, very beginning of this movie. I didn't even start it at the actual beginning. At the very beginning, we get a male actor who I know was in, I never watched Once Upon a Time, but I know he was in it.
Oh, okay.
He's like I don't know if you ever watched it, but he's like the
Mm-mm.
ghoulish looking guy.
I've heard it's really good, though. I've heard that I need to watch it.
Okay, I have not, but
I think Hook is a really big hot commodity in there.
Okay, I know
So.
it's not him. It's not him. I know Hook from that show. That man's hot. No, this guy, I don't know. I wish I could remember who he played. I'm gonna turn my monitor on. We're gonna keep filming. This is off the cuff if you guys couldn't tell.
Yeah, we're just fucking winging it.
Yeah, we're just going off here. Okay, Robert Carlyle. And he has been, so he was in, and I know so many people that listen to us are screaming at us right now, like, hey, what's this person? Because I know I do that all the fucking time. When I listen to podcasts like this, and I'm just like, hey, you guys, you should know this. And I'm like, I'm sorry. He was Rumpelstiltskin in Once Upon a Time.
I can see that, because he's a creepy little fucker.
Yeah. Oh, and he happened to also be, I'm looking here, in Trainspotting, the sequel to Trainspotting, which is also directed by...
I haven't seen that in forever. Holy shit.
And that was also directed by Danny Boyle. So that's so interesting that he's in this movie that's not directed by Danny Boyle, but was in later one of his movies. That's cool.
Wow, yeah, that just reached in the back of my archive. I haven't seen that forever.
I watched Trainspotting once in college. I said, why the fuck? Or no, it wasn't in college. It was after that. No, yes, it was college. Sorry. I was like, why the fuck did you make me watch that? No. And I never went back. I can't.
It's a rough one.
It's tough. So anyway, so that is Robert Carlyle playing Don. And then he is with his wife, and they're in a cabin with a bunch of other survivors. They get like a frantic knocking at the door. It's a kid. They let him in, and he's like, oh my God, I was getting chased by my mom, my dad, like a bunch of them. There's tons. And it's just like, great. Why'd you let him in? And, but of course, like they're like, it's a fucking kid. We're not going to leave him out there to die. And then not too much later, the house is overrun with infected, and Don and his wife, Alice, kind of get upstairs. Alice is like attached to this kid and very like keen on protecting him, even though the kid's like running in every wrong direction possible. I'd be like, you are on your fucking own. And then, so Dawn essentially is then split up from her. She's on one side of the room with this kid and infected in between them, and he's on the other side with the door behind him. She has nowhere to go. He's got everywhere to go. He shuts the door on her, and the infected attack them instead. And then he sprints out of the house. One of, like, say what you will about this movie, terrifying shot of him sprinting, and you get this wide shot of the hills behind him, and it's just a flood of infected running off this hill towards him. Terrifying. He gets to like this motorboat, and escapes. And I just love the moment that he's escaping, and he's like in the boat, he's riding away, and he's just, oh shit. It's like, that sounds about right. Yeah. So these two teenagers now cutting back to them re-entering London on a train, and the military is kind of built this stronghold community there. They're meeting him, Don, who is like the lead maintenance or lead engineer of this whole building facility where everyone's living. They go through their medical checks. We find out that the son, Andy, has, I think it's called heterochromia. I think so, where one of his eyes is a different color than the other. They make a point about pointing that out, and he says, oh yeah, my mom had it too. And we did see her earlier in the movie with the two different colored eyes.
Yeah, because thank God, by chance, these children, our parents from the beginning of the film, thank God they happened to send them, what was it, on like a field trip or something? They sent them away, so they missed the complete outbreak, and there happened.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah,
I know that they said they were in a refugee camp in like, I forget, in like Spain or Portugal. They said they were.
Yeah, it's like at the very beginning, like when Dawn and April, is that her name, the wife's name? When they're
Alice, yeah.
Alice. April, whatever his name is. You know what I mean? But yeah, they're having like this brief conversation. So maybe it is to a camp, but they're like, "Oh, thank goodness we sent them away." Right? So
Maybe you're right. Yeah.
and the kids like, so thank God that happened. And now they're coming back to desolate whatever, but we have doctors now. We have doctors and we have
Yeah.
camp set up. So
Yeah, they get the penthouse because
yeah.
they're privileged.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they're like living the high life. And then we get introduced to Doyle, played by Jeremy Renner. And he's like a sniper. So there's a shot of him at one point where he's looking through all of the different floors in the building. You know, he sees like someone watching like a show or something. There's a couple fucking, and he like has this reaction to like shaking his head, like, ha ha ha. It's like, you don't expect people to be fucking?
Right.
All right. Quit spying.
Yeah.
You know, he sees the two kids and their dad, you know, playing before bed, jumping on the bed. And then he zooms in on Scarlett, played by Rose Byrne, who's the doctor, and zooms in on her, and like she looks up at him and they make eye contact, and it's like ooh, goo, goo, gaga.
Mhm.
But we also meet, what the fuck is his name, because I can't believe I left him out. Where'd you go? Harold Perrineau. He's from Lost. Great in Lost. Michael is fantastic character. So yeah, he's also in this, and he's a pilot of a helicopter, and him and Jeremy Renner Doyle are like buddy. And let's see. So the next day comes, the kids are restless, so they say, "Hey, let's just sneak out."
Great idea.
And it's like, great idea. But now that you remind me that they were never in country when all of this started, they've never even come into contact with an infected.
Yeah, they have no idea.
No idea. So going from there, they sneak out. They're caught immediately, as far as they're spotted immediately, and it's reported. So we know that the military is going to come and get them. They're zopping through the streets of London, you know, on a go-kart, having a merry old time, like, oh my god, the wind through my hair. And it's like,
Yeah.
you are in so much danger right now. You have no
Yeah.
idea.
They're not armed. They're just,
No,
you know.
nothing. And I mean, it has been stated that the surrounding area is pretty much clear of infected.
Mhm.
It's just not secured.
Yeah.
So it's like they have this false sense of security, being like, well, we're outside the walls, but they said it's clear anyway. They end up going back to their house, and when what's his name? I keep forgetting. Andy. He goes upstairs into the house, and it's so creepy when you can see her in the corner, because I never saw her in the corner before. But you see her crouching behind this desk. There's a woman crouching down there as he's like looking through this upstairs room. And then this woman makes herself known, and it's his mom. It's Alice from the beginning of the movie. And one of her eyes is normal, the other is all bloodshot. And she runs up to him and hugs him. So she's not succumbing to the rage virus. She's not infected from first look, but like she's holding him extra tight, and he like kind of squirms out of reach and then runs away, like scared. And then the military comes in, they grab the kids, they also grab her, and they give her like the worst shower of her life. And it's all like the quarantine level stuff where they're like scrubbing them down with brushes and all that kind of stuff. Super violating. Then she's like strapped down to a table. Scarlett comes in, takes her blood, and they see that she has a bite mark on her arm. And they ask her, have you come into contact with the infected? And she doesn't answer. All she says is, I want to see my kids. And she goes, just, of course. And it's like, I'll buy you for a fucking second. So we find out that she is indeed infected. She's just a carrier. So she's not exhibiting symptoms, but she can easily spread it via saliva or blood, just like any regular infected could.
Great.
So it's like, great. And you don't have her on absolute lockdown. You know why? Because Dawn comes in. Fucking Dawn. Dipshit Dawn. And he comes in the room and sees like, and granted, of course, you would be excited to see your wife. However, this is the wife that you left behind. So you've been dealing with the guilt of the fact that your wife has been dead because you didn't choose to give your own life. And now she's back. And your first instinct is to go kiss her. Okay. So yeah, he kisses her, and they make it noticeable, like the saliva. It's really gross. Like he opens his mouth and their like tongues are touching, and it's all like sticky looking. It's nasty. And yeah, so he is then infected, and he starts freaking out. And at first, immediately. And at first watching this, I was unsure if Alice knew that she was likely, or she could like infect him. And if
Yeah.
she did it on purpose as like a fuck you, like you left me behind with those
That
things, I'll make you one.
Zach and I were having this exact discussion last night on the way to
Yeah.
see 28 Years. Is It's debatable, right? Because think about it, she's like had this insane trauma of being in that
Mm-hmm.
house and seeing and experiencing God knows what. So it's like, is she fully coherent, or yeah, is it like a fuck you? Because I thought she bit his lip, but I think I'm
No,
like
because
imagining that.
no, all they needed was the saliva.
The
So
saliva,
as
yeah.
soon as they made out, it was done for.
Yeah, because she does tell him before he kisses her, she says, I love you, Dawn. And she's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah, but then when he starts freaking out and like starting to turn, she gets terrified. So then
Yeah,
that tells me
yeah,
she was not aware and
right.
that she didn't mean to do this because yeah, also unless you're like totally willing to die right then and there, why would you do that?
Yeah,
Like you're
that's true.
strapped down in a
Hmm.
room with this man.
Good
You're
Lord.
the only thing he's coming after when he turns, which unfortunately is exactly what happens.
Yeah,
It's rough.
it
I didn't
is.
realize how rough her death is. Like
I
they
didn't
overdid
either.
it.
Yeah, I mean they executed
The
uh
rage.
the rage. They did,
Yeah.
it's really bad. It's very
It is.
violent.
Like he punches her repeatedly and then chokes her, bites her, and then gouges her eyes out.
Yeah.
And then beats her some more. So she died a fucking horrible death. And then now, yay, the virus is back. The virus is out. What they thought had been completely eradicated has made its way back just as
Yep.
easily.
Yep.
So Don is now going to be the super spreader, and he starts spitting on people and going all over the place. The kids who are in their quarantine are released by Scarlet, and she starts taking them out. Not taking them out, I mean, escorting them out. Scarlet just starts taking them down. So she's like keeping them with her to get them out. They're like, everyone's evacuating down into this parking garage because that sounds like the right thing to do. So Andy is split up from them on the stairwell. They make it out, but Andy is down in the parking garage. He spots his dad, who is infected, but Don's infected is very different. It seems like he's more intelligent. For sure.
Hmm.
He's not mindless like the other ones. And so he's just kind of standing there. And then he gets into the parking garage and just wreaks havoc among essentially just the fish in a barrel for this infection to now spread throughout everybody. And they've also been locked in there. They're chained up in there. Like the military went as far as to chain them into this parking garage.
Lord.
But they break out, and so now it's just overrun. They give the order for the military to be like, shoot all the infected you can. You hear over all these snipers like, I can't tell who is and isn't infected, and then they just give the order like, free fly, take them all out. It escalates so fast. And you definitely do get the sense of it, like cutting between the crowd versus like Idris Elba looking at all of the security cameras versus Jeremy Renner on the roof, like just everywhere. And it's like, yeah, no shit, it would just like go off and just everything is havoc,
Yeah.
everything's out of hand. If they're shooting at everybody, then Andy makes his way out and he finds shelter in a nearby building with some other people, ends up being reunited with Scarlet and his sister Tammy. And then Jeremy Renner also appears in there and he's like, hey, we gotta go. We're not safe in here. I got the call from my buddy in the helicopter that they're going to be firebombing all of this place. So we got about an hour to get out of here. And it's like, ooh, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
But also, let's not just being instantly burned to death. Cool. That's
Yeah.
fine. I'm not gonna last. So they all start to leave. They encounter another sniper, and one of these guys is like being a big wimp about being bait for the sniper, and it's like, yeah, same. I wouldn't be too thrilled about it either. But Andy like recklessly is dodging back and forth with the sniper, like, oh, you got a serpentine, like the kid from Game of Thrones didn't do. And he's really going back and forth. They take out the sniper. Meanwhile, Scarlet is just screaming after Andy because she knows that he could very well carry the cure to this thing. Because
Right.
he's like, your mom was a carrier. There's something in your blood. But for some reason, she does not tell him this. So he's just throwing himself all over the place. And she's like, Jesus Christ, you can't fucking die on me. Like, I need your blood. So they lose a couple more people, trying to get out of the city, but they do. Another instance of like is clearly a more intelligent infected, because as the firebomb starts throughout the city, he's just like cooped, he's like tucked away in a little corner away from the fire while everybody else burns to death. And it's like,
Yeah.
Okay. So we cut back to our company, who is now out of the city. They're gonna go meet up with Flynn, who is the helicopter pilot, at this park. But he rings into like Jeremy Renner to tell him like, oh yeah, there's a herd of infected that made it out of the firebombing, but they'll contact in 60. And he's like, oh, 60 minutes? And he's like, no, seconds. I'd be like, shit.
Yeah.
Well, I just shat my pants. And it's another really cool shot. I just love seeing the infected come over a hillside. There's something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all crouched in like this tall grass, and you look up and there's just the horizon line is just like scattered with infected just standing there.
It's the
Oh,
overwhelming sense of impending doom.
yes,
Yeah.
and it gets me every time. So they take off. They're like, well, we gotta run. But first, like, the helicopter comes by and like he's taking him out with his blades, which is kind of cool. But then he flies away, and they're like, okay, well, now meet me at Wembley. And they're like, okay, great. Let's make our way to Wembley then. And so on their way there, they end up trying to get into a car, because now instead of firebombing, there's gas. So the military is now coming through manually, just filling the streets with poison gas to suffocate the infected and any survivors. So Jeremy Renner gets out of the car and is pushing the car to get it to start. And unfortunately, Jeremy Renner is burned to death as soon as the car starts. R.I.P.
Yep. I have a lighter.
And so now we just have Scarlett, Tammy, and Andy that are now in the car trying to avoid the poison gas, but it's literally all around them. So they end up ducking down into the subway. And if you're asking, well, ain't that just the worst decision? You'd be correct, because nothing good happens in the subways in a horror movie. Ever. Ever. Like Cloverfield, Midnight Meat Train.
Yeah.
You name it. Bad. So, yeah, they go into the tunnel. They get out of the car. And now, since it's pitch black down there, Scarlett is using her rifle and using the night vision on the rifle to look in front of her. When jump scare, Don is there. He's stalked them here, and he beats Scarlett to death with the butt of the rifle. R.I.P. And that's also a rough one to watch, because you just see it through the night vision of just like the banging on her head. It's rough. So Tammy and Andy have sprinted away at this point, getting to the train cars, and then Dawn comes out of nowhere again, tackles Andy and bites Andy. Scarlett's all scared because obviously her brother's now going to turn. So she shoots her dad, kills her dad, and now Andy is now infected and a carrier. And we see like his eye get infected. It's kind of really cool. And they make their way out to meet up with the helicopter with Flynn, and he flies them away. He asks like, oh, where's Doyle? And like, you didn't make it. And he takes them away. And then we get one final shot of, it's another one of those like shaky movements, very reminiscent of the first movie, and it's a herd of infected that are sprinting through some city streets, and you point up and you see that it's the Statue of Liberty. It's the Eiffel Tower. So we now know like somehow the infection has spread into France. And that's 28 weeks later.
That's it.
Not nearly as cool as 28 days later. It's a lot less like meaningful, I think.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the connection that 28 days later does as far as like ties to humanity and things.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's an entertaining movie. If you're going through, now that we've got 28 years later, and then those subsequent sequels that are going to come out, pop it on if you're doing the marathon. It's not a complete waste of time. Like, the infected scenes at least are cool. And so some, like, IMDb trivia, a couple of them I thought were kind of cool. So the boy who arrives at the cottage at the very beginning of the movie claims to be from Sanford. So Sanford is the name of a fake village used by the British police to train recruits and practice emergency preparedness drills. And like the street plan of fake Sanford is based on a city in Scotland called Dundee. If Sanford sounds familiar, because it sure did to me, Sanford is the fictional city from Hot Fuzz.
Oh my God.
that's where Simon Pegg goes to be a police officer in Sanford. And so it's like, it's kind of a cool little mixed up joke with like, because obviously Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg did Shaun of the Dead, which is a zombie movie that poked fun at 28 Days Later, because they have like a little bit where they dismiss rage-infected monkeys as the source of their zombie apocalypse in Shaun of the Dead. So it's like a full circle moment of being like, oh yeah, Sanford and Edgar Wright, the Cornetto trilogy, it's all one big happy family. And second bit of trivia is the scenes. So we briefly talked for 28 Days Later about Mark's situation and how he got split from his sibling with like the big crowd. It's bears a lot of similarities to the way that Tammy and Andy are separated within the stairwell, and they're like torn from each other, and Andy has to like climb over people and get into the air duct. And so it was very similar nods almost. So nothing concrete, but interesting connection.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So 28 weeks later, nothing to necessarily dismiss, but nothing to, obsess over either.
Yeah.
I thought it was a perfectly fine movie, But now we get the big one. You want to talk about 28 years later?
God.
Let's fucking go.
Holy shit.
Like, now recapping this movie is going to be near impossible. I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
I've only seen it the one time. Pretty much we open on finding out that the rage virus did spread across, out of England into the general UK, but it was eradicated and pushed back to mainland England and the Isles. So it was completely sequestered off and is now essentially England, Scotland, and the Isles are all quarantined. And pretty much it's understood that anyone that goes into that zone, no one goes to rescue you. Anyone that is born and lives there fends for themselves. So it is its own world in there. Yeah. So it's kind of confirmation from the original movie, 28 Days Later, when the soldier is rambling on about how their first step is going to be to quarantine England. Like, it's a big island. It's easy to quarantine. Just lock it down, which is essentially what they do. So we pick up 28 years later. And now we see a civilization on an island that is only accessible via a causeway that is only accessible during low tide. So it's super duper secure, pretty much, for most of the day. And Aaron Taylor Johnson stars in this one, along with Alfie Williams. That's the kid. So we get Aaron Taylor Johnson playing Jamie and his son Spike. So they're kind of having a conversation about how like today's a big day. Someone tells Jamie that like Spike is too young. He shouldn't be going out. He's only 12. They usually wait until they're like 15. So it's clearly like an initiation of sorts to be like a man in this community, where his father is taking him to the mainland to kill his first infected. So we kind of get introduced to this community that's built up these houses and fortified the walls to make sure that they're very secure. And they depart, and it's made understood that like the second you step foot outside of these walls, no one is coming to rescue you. If you don't come back on the timeline that you've set, you're assumed to be dead. Good luck. And they say, okay. And it's like, I just love the bluntness of it. Yeah. It reads back to Selena, where it's like, you get bit, I'm chopping your head off.
Well,
no hard feelings. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I just want to bring up the opening scene of this film, the opening scene with the children watching Teletubbies.
How could I forget?
The way that it's filmed is exactly, to me, was exactly how 28 Days was filmed, right? The same like hues and the color palettes and just everything. So the way that they captured that for the opening scene, and then when we jump forward to this encampment that we're at, you do see the very drastic difference in filming. But it's still like the way that they tied it in, my God, and how they use the Teletubbies for fucking natural horror fodder, because
it's literally, thank you for bringing that up, because it's literally a room of children watching the Teletubbies. God. A mom rushes in, drops a kid off, and it was like, no one leave this room and you stay quiet. And then all the kids start to cry. and then they just hear banging and yelling from downstairs, and it's just like, staying quiet is not going to help these kids. They are all about to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
And yeah, then lo and behold, bursts right through the door and infected. And one of the kids, this blonde boy, is like stuck behind. He's like kept behind a door because of when the infected bursted in. So he's able to escape and run around the house, and like his mom is there and she's like, "Oh my god, Jimmy, run." And then she gets
Mhm.
attacked and there's people turning all around him. I don't understand how the fuck he got out of this. It was tense as hell.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's able to escape. And that's when we cut to later and we get all that intro.
The one last part about that I
Yeah.
wanted to bring up. So when he runs to his dad in the church.
Oh my god, yes.
So the fact that they even incorporated the church, like the whole from 28 days. And in my mind, of course, I was like, oh wait, they were on
They're in Scotland.
Exactly. I was like, oh wait, no way. But I just thought that it was so cool that like they incorporated a church with a priest, and the priest is like, these are yes, my children. And I was like, oh my god, you fucking cuckoo bananas. Your kid is sitting here like begging for you to help him, and he's just like, take me.
Yeah, he was not all there. He had a bit of a different belief system when it came to the infected. So yeah, Jimmy hides himself under the floor as his dad literally like turns
so
above
sad.
him, and all the infected leave, and he is now on his own. So then we cut and we see now Aaron Taylor Johnson. So yeah, Jamie and Spike are on their way out. Aaron Taylor Johnson, also Scottish accent this whole movie. As soon as he opened his mouth and started speaking, I'm just like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
It's got me.
Yep.
They're speaking with Scottish accents. Uh-oh.
I knew it. As soon as I watched it, I was like, oh, Megan's in fucking heaven.
Uh-huh.
When it said down in the corner of the Scott Highlands, I was like, she's gonna fucking freak out.
Yep. I was just by myself. I was by myself because I saw this by myself, and I'm just like kicking my little feet in my chair. I'm like, the Highlands? So yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson's got a Scottish accent. It's really hot. Him and Spike leave the community. They go across the causeway and enter the mainland. And now we get to learn that in the 28 years since the infection has spread, while humans have also evolved, so have the infected. So now the infected have like a class system, essentially.
Ooh.
So I can't wait to watch this movie again with subtitles, because as much as I love a Scottish accent, I understood 85% of this movie. So I am not sure what these slower infected are called, but they're like fat infected that are like army crawl their way silently across the floor. They're really fucking creepy.
I named them chub crawlers.
I like them. I like it. Yeah, I could not hear what they called them.
I couldn't either. They're fucking terrifying.
They're really creepy. Like, they're all gray and slimy and sticky, and like, just because they're all just always crawling on the floor. So Aaron Taylor Johnson and his kid eye one, and he's like, there you go, there's your mark. The kid fires the arrow, hits it in the neck. The thing lets out this like nasty ass shriek.
Mm-hmm.
And then from behind Aaron Taylor Johnson, we see another one slowly creeping up. So they love playing this movie. They love playing with the like I think you mentioned it earlier, like the impending doom. Like, they show us the threat slowly encroaching on our main characters, and we're like, guys.
Yeah, you're about to die.
It's right there. But it's like, and also it's kind of, I really loved that there was uncertainty. I genuinely did not think anyone was going to live the entirety of this movie.
Same here.
I was like, well, maybe this is all we're going to get of Aaron Taylor Johnson. Maybe he was just the money grab. Like, maybe he was the guy that they're like, hey, you're a really good actor. You're going to be really great. But also, we're going to kill you in the first like 30 minutes of the movie. I was fully expecting that. But he doesn't. He turns around and kills the other one. And then he's like, oh, we got to go. You know, their screams are going to draw more. So now we're walking through the woods, trying to think if anything else memorable kind of comes up as we're going through here.
Oh, before they get to the house.
Yeah, because I know at one point before they get to the house.
Oh, they see the deer running. They see like the herd of deer.
Herd of deer. Yeah, massive herd of deer. That's really, really cool because it's like it sounds like thunder, and we're like, where's the storm coming from? But they like crest over this hill.
Yeah.
It's just I don't need it huge,
And
huge herd of deer.
we know Spike is 12,
Hmm.
and well, no, I guess he's seen them before. Well, no, because this is 28 years after, so he may not have ever. I don't think he's ever been on the mainland, has he? No.
No, this is his first time.
Yeah, so this is his first time seeing like a herd of
Yeah.
deer.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Experiencing all of it. Like I'm sure he's like been taught what a deer is, but yeah, never
Right.
seen them. So yeah, huge massive herd of deer go running by, and then they're like he's like, "All right, let's, make our way back. You got your kill. Let's,
Yeah.
let's go back and celebrate. We got a party waiting for us." So they start to go back home, but they start to hear like shrieks in the distance. So they kind of get down as they start to enter this field, and once again, I fucking love it. Cresting over the hill, we see infected, the runners, and they're all naked. Because, wow, wouldn't you think 28 years the clothes aren't going to hold up? So all of the infected in this movie are nude, which
Hmm.
I thought was a very great choice, because it's logical. It's like, yeah, clothes are not going to last 28 years, especially if these things are just running around decrepit in the elements. Like, yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, there's beans and taters all throughout this movie.
Oh yeah,
All of it.
everywhere. We got
Everyone's
tatas,
naked.
sausages, everything.
Everyone's naked.
Just you wait. There's sausages and then there's
Hmm.
eggplants. Okay.
Yeah.
We do see the first alpha here
Yeah.
because it's really cool because you see a group of the like regular runner infected that we know of kind of like jerkily running over this hill. But
Hmm.
then there's one off to the right that seems bigger than the others that's just strolling
Ugh.
and walking normally.
Ugh.
It's so terrifying. It is. Oh, it's so creepy.
Yeah.
And then that's when Aaron Taylor Johnson's like, fuck, that's an alpha. Back to the trees, run. So
Hmm.
they book it and they take shelter in a house up in like this roof area and are able to escape from the infected. And they're talking back and forth. Back when they were still in their community, we also learned that Spike does have a mom. She is unfortunately a bit sickly though, so she's like in bed with fevers. She can't really think straight. She says a lot of very aloof things, doesn't really make sense, so she's clearly very sick. And so cutting back to Spike and Jamie up in the house, I'm pretty sure like they're talking about like what's gonna happen to mom or something.
Hmm.
Aaron Taylor Johnson just kind of trying to comfort him however he can, but like we know he knows like she's gonna die. They fall asleep, and cut to later, we start to see the house start to shake and the rumbling starts again. So the herd of deer is running by them. And this house is so decrepit that the vibrations from the herd of the deer is literally shaking down the house.
Hmm.
So Jamie and Spike book it the fuck out of there, get out in the nick of time. And then they're like, well, shit, it's just barely morning. Infected are definitely going to hear that. We got to go. So they kind of make their way back to the same field, don't see any infected, so they're making their way over. I think they might hear a couple off in the distance at one point, and they're like, we just gotta run, we gotta get back. But they are also on a clock because of the tide. So they gotta make sure that they're over that causeway in time. Otherwise, once the tide comes up high enough, the way that the currents work, you could try to swim, but the current will take you and sweep you out to sea. So once that causeway's gone, you're not getting across until the next low tide. So they're on a tight schedule, got to get back. And when they do get back, he notices I think Jamie says something like it's a calf level, like it'll be fine, we can make it. So they take off their shoes and they start walking along the causeway. Like he is so alert looking behind them as they take off their shoes, and then they start walking
Yeah.
across the I'm like, what are you doing? You got to
Yeah.
pick up the pace, sir. Please pick up the pace. You were just on such high alert. So they're like roughly halfway, and I don't know about you, my heart fucking leapt and started beating a million miles a minute when this alpha showed up.
Oh, I was freaking the fuck out.
I
I
was
was
so
I was
terrified.
elevated in my seat like this.
Yeah.
And like this, and there's like one couple, no, like two couples behind us, and I was like, they probably think I'm fucking crazy. I don't give a shit. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
I was like gripping my seat. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Cause we get this awesome like overhead shot of, and we see like the
birds.
Oh, yes, that's right. Because there's this massive flock of birds that are flying away from the infected. They see, and like, but they're, I forget what like the term would be, but like when they're walking through the water, how it's splashing and creating like the white
Yeah.
ripples around them.
It's
So
like
we
a
see like
bioluminescence a little bit.
a little bit, yeah, like something
Yeah.
to indicate like, hey, there's two people moving here. And then we see this other wake of white water sprinting down the causeway,
Oh my
like
God.
inhumanly sprinting at such a fast speed. And they're not noticing, and they're not noticing. And you just see this thing getting closer and closer and
Yeah.
closer. Then they finally turn around because all the birds are overhead. And then they see this thing coming out of the darkness, and they're just like, fuck, run. And then fucking Spike keeps tripping over his feet, and I want to kill him. Like, and so the two of them are running and they're trying to get back, and he's like panicking. And then just as he's essentially covering his son, like, I'm sorry, son, like, I tried, the guards at the gate have woken up and they take down the alpha just as he's about to get him.
Mm.
And they get him down with like a huge fucking like spear on fire through the chest. Like, these things take a lot to get taken down.
I mean, that scene of conflict was so hair thin.
Mm.
I was like, surely one of them is dead right now. Surely
Yeah.
one of them is dead right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention earlier, as they were going to hide out in that house, they were getting chased by a bunch of infected, and Spike failed massively at killing any of them. Like,
Yeah.
he
Terrified.
couldn't land a shot. He was too scared, panicking, and his dad had to take care of them all.
I mean, he's like 12.
He's
going
12.
out. He's 12 years old, dog.
That's why everyone was telling him, like, wait another couple years
Yeah.
at least. Like, he's too young for this. And he's
Oh
like,
my
nah, my
God.
son's tough. He's got it.
Good Lord.
So this is just another instance where he's panicking and putting them in a dire situation. So Alpha's dead. They go back inside. It's party time. And his dad is like drunkenly on stage, talking him up, talking about all of the infected he killed and all the headshots he's landing. And this poor kid's just like sitting there knowing that it's all lies. And he's like, I killed a slow fat one. That's all I did. And so, yeah, like, there's a big party, and then Spike follows his dad out of the party to see him hooking up with another woman. So yikes. And then so Spike goes back to sit with his mom, and kind of watch over her and take care of her. And that's when we get a little bit of lore on this supposed doctor. So there's an older gentleman that's kind of watching over his mom while they all party, and he starts to tell Spike about this doctor that lives out, on the mainland, and there's constantly a fire burning, so they can always see the smoke. We saw the smoke earlier when he was out there with his dad. And this one is called, what's his name?
It's like
Dr. Kelson.
Kelson, yeah.
Yes. And I'm also now seeing that the big fat infected are called slow lows.
Slow lows. I love that.
Slow lows.
I love that.
So, yeah, so we get this kind of lore drop on Dr. Kelson, who's supposedly this doctor that went crazy, and no one goes out there and talks to him because he's just insane. But Spike is like, but he was a doctor. He can help my mom who's sick.
Yeah.
And they're just like, well, maybe, but he's crazy, so likely not. But Spike loves his mom, and he'll do whatever he can to help her. So when his dad gets home drunk, he confronts him about, talking up his story when it wasn't deserved, sleeping with another woman. Aaron Taylor Johnson hits him in the face, but then the kid draws a knife on him and tells Aaron Taylor Johnson, like, get away from him and his mom, and defends him and his mom, and says, you get the fuck away from us. I don't want to see you again. Aaron Taylor Johnson, distraught, realizing he just hit his child and was a really threatening presence in his home, gives upset and sad. And that's when Spike makes the decision, like, I'm taking my mom out of here. I'm taking her to get help that dad won't. Because he also talked to his dad about taking her to see this doctor, and his dad recalls a time I think he said it was like 15 years previously.
Mm-hmm.
Him and a couple of his friends, were out on the mainland exploring. They saw the smoke, went over to the smoke, and saw around this fire in rows are just lined bodies. And there was this Dr. Nelson down there with a wheelbarrow or holding a corpse of a kid and essentially like waved at them from far away when he
Yeah.
saw them. They got so freaked out, they turned tail and ran.
It was a super creepy visual.
So creepy. Like the visual they
Yeah.
do see, it's like, yeah, it's just literally rows lined up of
Mm-hmm.
bodies. And he is just like, hey.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's enough to get anybody sprinting the opposite direction.
Yep.
But Spike doesn't care. He's like, nope, doctor means medicine means helping my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So he convinces her to like get up, get her stuff together, and stages a fire to get the front gate unguarded so they can slip out. So they do, and they kind of reach the top of this hill where they can look out on everything. His mom starts to freak out because she has like a moment where her kind of cognition comes back, and she's like, we're on the mainland, aren't we? And he's like, yes. And she freaks out. She's like, we can't be here, take me home, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, no, we gotta go see the doctor. And she listens to him, and they continue on. And I think this is the point maybe where we see a group of infected that are all kind of gathered around some like a stream of running water. And it's interesting. They're washing themselves and drinking the water. So there is still that level of intelligence within them, like that they're attempting to bathe.
Yeah, so we have
It's very interesting.
Now we've seen different like mutations of these infected.
And it's like I picture these ones as like they're the runners essentially, to use Last of Us terms. But I see them not only as like, okay, they're intelligent as they were, but I see like they themselves are evolving as well and maybe gaining back some of their like cognitive ability, just very minimally maybe. Because also in 28 Days Later, I've never realized it, but when Jim is in that abandoned like rest stop and he's like, oh, we don't have any hamburgers. And one of the infected attacks him that's a kid. You hear the kid scream at him, I hate you. And it's like the only time we hear an infected speak.
Yeah.
And so it gives you a hint like there is a level of intelligence still in there. It's just like they're literally infected with rage. That's why they beat people to death. That's why they run. They're just like go, 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 go.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very interesting that this was just kind of another way to show their evolution as infected, where now they're like, oh, they're washing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. But yeah, one of them is a pregnant woman, and we see her kind of shuffling along the water. And then we cut back to Spike and his mom making their way. And I'm trying to remember if this is when we get to the gas station.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, because they run from a horde in the field, and that's where one that pops up I thought was Cillian Murphy, and it was not.
Yes. In the flower field, one does pop up, and it's eerily similar to Cillian Murphy, but it is not.
I'm grateful, I'm glad that I'm not the only person that thought that. Apparently, it was a very big hot take that Cillian had.
And and I love the director in an interview being like, no, I kind of wish that I thought of that though. That would have been kind of cool. Yeah. Like, yeah, it would have been cool. Like, go figure. Like, Jim's an infected now.
Yeah.
Right.
Somehow ended up in Scotland.
Yeah, and somehow made it all the way up to Scotland. So we get that encounter very briefly, but then they are, like you said, they're getting chased by like a small group of infected, and they end up going to take shelter in this gas station. And in the theater, I didn't know why it kept showing us the interior of this thing before they showed up. What?
Wait, no, we skipped. The gas station comes after when they take shelter for the night.
Where do they take shelter?
They take
shelter.
Oh
my god, in the church.
Yes.
Shit, yes, thank you. Yeah. So the first night they're out there, they take shelter in a church, and Spike is doing his darndest to like stay up and keep watch. But one of these the slow-los, oh, it's so creepy. Like, they go from an aerial shot to show you how far away they are, down to the ground and showing them getting closer, and then back up to show them getting close. Like, oh my god, it was shot so well.
It was.
And yeah, he's just closer and closer, starts chewing on his shoelace, and then spits that out, notices it's attached to a human, and then starts like crawling his way up the body of the kid who's now asleep. And then we just see like a jacket get put over this thing's face and torn away. And then we wake up the next morning and Spike is laying with his mom. And then there's this dead infected next to them. And he's like, I didn't do that. What happened? I fully expected Aaron Taylor Johnson to show up.
Yeah, same here.
I thought that's what was happening.
Same here.
But then we get the flashback showing that it was actually his mom.
I loved that. I loved that scene. It was so fucking good.
So his mom's name is Isla, played by Jodie Comer. And if you've seen, I don't know if you've seen Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds that came out. So she plays Millie in that, but she's also in Killing Eve. If you've watched Killing Eve.
I haven't.
She's also
stuff.
Okay. I was like, those are kind of the two big ones that I know her from. But yeah, so she's playing Isla, the mom. So yeah, she essentially put the jacket over this thing's head and just repeatedly bashed its head against a wall until it was dead.
Ugh.
And ooh, if that is not just like the best showcase of like moms protect their kids.
Yeah.
Like, even though she is not cognitively all there, she snapped into it and was like, I'm killing this thing. This thing wants to hurt my son.
Right. We're, the side that we get of her throughout this entire movie is that she's going in and out of hallucinations and she's not, she's obviously got some sickness that is throwing her into hysteria. And so, yeah, the fact that they gave us that scene of like her maternal mama bear just immediately kicked in and was like, nope.
No, thank you.
It was really good.
It was so good. So yeah, that was really, really cool. And then so the next day they're running away from some infected. Yeah, I didn't understand why they kept showing us the inside of this gas station. I just thought it was a cool light effect inside. I'm like,
I know,
ooh, it's so spooky looking. Cool.
Right.
Dumbass. No,
it is not.
It's a fucking backup of propane. So they enter this gas station not knowing that, but I should say we cut back because first we have to get introduced to the military guys. So there's a small group of military guys getting picked off one by the infected until only one remains and he is able to escape in the shortest version. So Isla and Spike go to take refuge in this building, only to then start immediately hacking and coughing because of the gas. But they're it's too late now because the infected are right behind them. So there is this like chaotic as fuck fight in this like gas station. It's very well done because you can tell who is who, but it's also so chaotic. And essentially like they're suffocating to death, but then a hatch in the ceiling opens and one of the military guys is there and he saves them. And we learn that this guy's name is Eric. So Eric is from Sweden and he says that he was a part of a small party who was like drifting off the coast of one of the islands, and they essentially got caught up in a current and were washed ashore, and now they're stuck here. So he's essentially like, and because Spike's like, oh, is no one coming to get you? And he's like, you don't really know much about this, do you?
Yeah.
No one is coming to save me.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's interesting because it's the same thing that Spike is in. He's like, you leave the confines of your community. No, you're on your own. No one is coming to save you. So I thought that was kind of a cool pairing as well. And Eric offers like some really great comedic relief also, because like it has been butt clenching the entire way.
It has, yeah.
All of the infected and the running and just the story and like how worried we are, because it's like I am constantly worried about Isla just wandering off into the nothing. I'm like, she is not mentally all here. She is so sick. She's gonna wander off and get herself killed. Oh my god. Which she almost does, because she starts to hear this like yelling and shrieking and is like, it sounds like someone in distress. Like, we have to go help. So she follows it through like this thick brush and she's ahead of Spike and Eric, and she boards this abandoned train. The shrieking is getting louder and we turn the corner to see the pregnant infected. This is the only part of the movie that I was unsure how I felt about it. Not what entails, but like how it's played out. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on it
I do
because I see the
too.
point and I see what they were going for. I just don't know if I necessarily like that it was included, I guess. But I mean, hey, I still love a movie. So essentially, there's this scene where now Isla is going to help this infected woman give birth to a baby. She has moments where she's got her hands up, offering like to support this woman who's infected, and clearly like screaming in pain because she's in labor. So they join hands and she's not attacking Isla. She is solely just concentrating on like birthing this baby, which she does. Isla helps her birth the baby, ties off the umbilical cord, and they cut the umbilical cord. And they find out that this baby is not infected. It's perfectly healthy. The infected woman collapses. And they assume that she's dead. And then, few seconds later, she's back up to infected, status again, and they kill her. But yeah, I understand the connection. Like a lot of this movie is very much about like mother son connection and or mother child in general. So I understand the point of having this and being like, even infected, this woman is still only concentrating on making sure her child is delivered safely. So that's why she's not attacking Isla.
Mm.
And I totally understand why that is there. I was like, okay, I could take it or leave it, but okay.
Yeah. I honestly, I probably could have done without that scene.
Yeah. And it's like, I try to keep an open mind where I'm like, I don't want to be that prude that's like, oh my God, I can't watch childbirth. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, that was not even really a huge issue for me.
I think for me it was because of what this movie series is and what 28 Days was, where I was like, we just didn't like, we got Frank and Hannah, their like parental connection. So that's where I was like, not that I don't want any emotional depth in this movie, but at the same time, I was like, are we just gonna kill each other?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
No, totally. And it would have been one thing if they like came across this woman infected, giving birth, fine, and like she was still outwardly raging to kill. That I would understand.
Right.
But the fact that they had this moment of like clarity where they're like joining hands as mothers and she's like, I'm gonna get you. She doesn't say I'm gonna get you through this, but it's like that a moment of that. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, it's a level of humanity, but it's also like that also ties back to 28 Days Later, where they talk about like rebuilding society.
Right.
Baby's got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
It just so happened that this one was from an infected.
So yeah, I mean, it definitely pushed the envelope as far as like graphic, because I don't know if I've seen another film, honestly, where it shows the full view of this baby coming out of the birth canal. Like,
watch the Pit.
I haven't watched. I'm.
Watch The Pit, then you'll see. No warning, I shit you not, no warning. None. Full frontal baby coming out of vagina. Wow. Nope. No, thank you. I was like, not because. Oh, sorry. Not because like I never want to voluntarily Google birthing videos. Like it's not what interests me. But
I don't blame you.
Yeah. It's just, it reinforces my desire to never have children. When I see things like that, I'm like, see, good. Actually, you know what? Good. Thank you for showing me that. Reinforcing that. So yeah, if you want to see full frontal unexpected birth, go watch The Pit. But yeah, anyway, I was, take it or leave it on that scene, but I understand why it was there.
Yeah, same here.
So they deliver this baby, the infected woman is killed, and then Eric, poor sweet Eric, he's freaking the fuck out. He's like, what the fuck did you just do? Like, I gotta kill this baby. And she's like, it's not infected. He's like, you just pulled it out of an infected woman. It's fucking infected baby. He's freaking out. And then all of a sudden, through like the top of the subway train, an alpha attacks and like pulls him up and kills him. Now, we want to point out a little detail about the alphas. They kill their victims predator style, where they grab them by the jaw and they rip their heads off along with their entire spine. It is so fucking badass. I
So
love
gruesome.
it.
So
Gruesome. I love a good predator kill though, so I was just like,
Yeah.
thank you. So yeah, gruesome as hell. And so then out the alpha jumps down and we get our first look at this fucking eggplant this man is dangling with. Okay. Now, I am going to say, I looked this up. According to IMDb, the genitals in the film were simulated through photorealistic prosthetics. So, not
Okay.
real penises, but prosthetics done very well because these things were big and they were hanging.
They were.
And like now I'm on the side of TikTok. I've started sending you some where it's people that are running away from the alpha and then they stop and they turn around and get a look and then they turn back around.
Well, and Zach looked at me when we were on our way home. He said, "Now we know why they call him the Alpha."
Yeah. No, it's so true. Like, yeah. So big old dangling penis on the alpha. And so they're running away. The alpha's chasing them through the train, all the while holding on to the skull and spine of Eric, mind you.
Like his fucking toy.
Yeah. Like he's a little blankie that he's pulling around behind him.
God.
And so they escape the train. He follows them out. And just as we think once again they're about to eat it, the alpha just kind of goes still after being shot with a dart. And now we get our first close-up look. My fucking chair. We get our first close-up look at now of course I can't remember. Dr. Kelson.
Yeah.
Who is played by Ralph Fiennes. And he calls this alpha Samson. He's like, oh yeah, he's been here for the last few months. I've been tracking him around the area. It's like, it's as if he's fucking livestock. It's so creepy. So he explains, he's like, oh hi, yes, sorry for my appearance, because he's all covered in orange. He's like, oh, I'm covered in iodine because the infected don't seem to like iodine.
Which is interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because what, iodine's a disinfectant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
How spot on. The infected don't like the disinfectant.
Yeah. And he just he pries Eric's head out of
oh my god, yeah.
The alpha's hand.
Let go, Samson.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get, he's definitely a little strange, but not crazy, at least from what we can tell.
Given his circumstances of being out there,
Yeah. So he's like, oh, we should go before Samson wakes up. It's like, yeah, please do. Also, the fact that he doesn't kill him. He's like, oh yeah, it's just a high dose of morphine. Yeah. He'll be back to normal soon. So they make their way to Dr. Kelson's camp, and they start to see all of these pillars. And the pillars are all made out of bones. Creepy, but also beautiful.
I was going to say that entire set, I feel like, is just so iconic.
It's so cinematically beautiful.
It is.
And horrifying.
Right.
So Kelson explains that all those years ago, what we were seeing was he was disposing of all of these dead bodies and essentially burning off and bleaching their bones to make this memorial to all of those that have passed. So all of these pillars are surrounding a massive tower that's made out of all of the skulls of these people. And so yeah, it's not positioned in a death worship kind of way at all. It's not nefarious. He's just like, I wanted to build a memorial in honor of everyone who's passed. So taken their bodies and I broke them down and I burned their bodies. So it's like, yeah, it's, a bit horrifying to think about, but he did it all so that it's like they're not just withering away and decaying. They've been built into this beautiful memoriam. So he takes Eric's head and spine and tosses it into his crematorium, his little makeshift crematorium, and then has Spike lay his skull among the rest. And then that's when they kind of get down to business, talking about his mom. He's like, you're a doctor. My mom is sick. Can you please help her? And so he's talking to Isla, telling can you press your finger to your nose, then my finger. He asks if he can, check her armpits and breasts for lumps and, does all these kind of other little tests. And then he gives the news that while, of course, he doesn't have any medical equipment to really properly diagnose this, he assumes that she has some kind of cancer that has most likely spread either from her brain to the rest of her body or from her body to her brain. And so, yeah, he has to unfortunately give that diagnosis to both her and Spike, who doesn't quite understand the, impossibility of getting her help. He's upset, like, we came all this way, we fought so hard, and now you're telling me she's gonna die. And he's just kind of like, yes, unfortunately. And then Isla tells him, like, she expected that was what this was, and she was scared to tell him. It's really quite sad and touching, as they kind of have this moment of her hugging him, and then gives permission for Kelson to, like, shoot him with a dart to, like, make him a little loopy and put him out. But the thing is, they shot him up with this morphine and then handed him the baby.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Only part of the scene that took me out a little bit. Yeah. Everything else, I'm like, this is super sad. It's done so well. Like, it's so tragic that he's, like, in such denial about his mom, and she knows that she's gonna die a slow death, and, like, they're trying to juggle with all of this, only to then be like, okay, we're gonna calm you down, give you some morphine so that Kelson can take Isla to go kill her, but also hold the baby, you drugged up child.
Mind you, this is his, like, second time out within 24 hours. And, like, in that time period, he's been exposed to the mainland, done his first kill, been fucking terrified. Now he's back out there with his mom, who he's now learned is dying. Like,
yeah, kid's been through a lot. So he's kind of passing out as we see Kelson and Isla walk off, and from what I gather, he just essentially overdoses her on morphine, is what I would expect. And then it cuts to a little bit later where Kelson presents her cleaned skull, to Spike, saying, like, find her a spot, the most special of spots. And he takes that as she's going on the top. So he climbs up this structure of skulls up to the top and places her skull so that her eyes are facing the sunrise. And it's so beautiful. We get this shot from behind where he is looking out on the sunrise with the skull next to him, and they're both just, like, having this moment of peace together. And it's just, oh my god. This is why I need to see this movie again, because I did not feel this way watching it. I was just so enveloped in everything that I feel like I couldn't really feel the weight of it. Like, I definitely understood what was happening, and I was like, wow, this is such a beautiful, touching moment. But I never really was like, damn. Like, just the love of the mother and son in this movie is just, it's, oh my god, surpasses everything. And he makes his way back down, and then they end up having to hide because Samson has made his way into the camp. So they're all hiding underground together. Who is it? Spike, Kelson, and the baby. I thought it was so funny. I don't know if they meant for it to be comedic relief or not, but so Samson's, like, trying to get at them under this, like, barred off area. And then from the other end, he just punches through the ceiling and grabs Kelson's back and, like, pulls him against the roof, so he just is like, and then lets him go again.
Yeah, he pulls him up, like, 1, 2.
Yeah, he's, like, pulling him, trying to get him out of there before Spike, gets him with some more morphine. But I just thought it was such a funny moment where he's just like a little doll just getting flailed around. I thought it was so funny. But then, he looks at Spike and he's like, I think it's time for you to go.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I think it's time for me to go too.
Because Spike then shoots Samson in the arm with a dart, and then he's just like, man.
Yeah, the arm's just dangling there. I was so skeptical of that arm. I'm like, he's coming back to life. He's gonna snap and something's gonna happen.
Yeah, someone's losing their spine.
Yep. So Kelson leads Spike back home, or at least out of his area. And now Spike and the baby are returning home. So they get back, but Spike does not return. We get a voiceover, I believe. Essentially, he's left the baby in a basket with a letter written to his dad telling him, don't come looking for me. I'm not coming back. And mom is dead. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And it shows Aaron Taylor Johnson running out into the middle of the causeway, even though it's like a high tide, and just wanting so desperately to go after his son but can't. And Spike goes out on his own. We cut to see him with his backpack and he's got all of his stuff. He's like making camp for himself. He's got his bow and arrow and he's dead shot, dead on now. Like, this whole experience going out there with his mom has given him so much confidence and like the drive to know that like he can do this. And yeah, it ends with him out there on his own killing a couple of infected and then being on the run. But then he reaches a dead end only to be met with a whistle, I believe. There's a whistle that happens and he looks up and he sees this blonde man standing in a jumpsuit.
In a jumpsuit.
A sweatsuit rather. And he says something like, "Do you need some help?" And he's like, "Do you mind?" And Spike's like, "Go for it." And then on cue, he whistles again and a whole group of these people in colorful sweatsuits and weird funky weapons start jumping and flying all over the place, doing like parkour, gymnastics, leaps,
Martial
bounds.
arts.
Yeah. Like fucking up these infected in like the most theatrically dramatic ways possible, only for this gentleman to then approach Spike and surrounded by all of these other very blonde people and comes up to him and says, "Hey, I'm Jimmy. We're the Jimmies." So this is actually Jimmy from the very beginning of the movie. This whole time, I 100% thought Aaron Taylor Johnson, because of their accents, I thought Jamie was Jimmy. And so I expected that's what they were doing, but there also earlier in the movie when it was Aaron Taylor Johnson and Spike that were out at the first time, they found a person hanging upside down who had turned infected with the name Jimmy carved into their body. So that was clearly done by these guys.
Right. Right.
So these guys are a little wacky, a little crazy. And if I remember the name correctly, these guys are apparently, like, I don't know if based off of is the right word for it, but based off of Jimmy Savile, who is like not a good person, but like as far as the theatricality and like the look of them, I guess it's very based off of them. But it's very Power Rangers-y, like the way that they're flipping and doing all these things. It very much reminded me of old school Power Rangers. But yeah, it's like such a wacky way to end this movie and such like a turn it on its head as far as the tone, because it goes from this very serious, like we get the original soundtrack again, like as Spike's running, we get that soundtrack again, and so like you're really in it. We're like, oh my god, this is it, it's the 28 days later, yes, this is what we love, I love this. And then all of a sudden it's like pop music and these colorful guys are flipping all over the place and you're like, what's happening, what world is this? And they introduce themselves as the Jimmies. This gentleman is played by Jack O'Connell of recent Sinners fame. And the movie ends. He's like, "Hey, you want to join up with us?" And the movie ends. That's it. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, so yeah, like just leaves it open that we will be getting another movie.
Definitely. So if I remember correctly, this is planned as a trilogy. Obviously, no one knows if it follows this necessarily Spike, but we do know that there is going to be another one called 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, according to the source on IMDb, or I believe that was IGN. And it was filmed in tandem with this movie, so if it's already been filmed, hopefully that means we don't have to wait very long for it to come out. I, for one, very interested to see what happens with this, because the group of them, I've seen them compared to A Clockwork Orange as far as like the group of, I forget what the gentleman's name is in Clockwork Orange, but his group. And it was very similar vibes, like a little nefarious, like you're clearly deranged. Right. However, you're really fun and I kind of want to see how crazy you get. So yeah, I'm super excited to see what else happens with these movies. I think between 28 days and 28 years, like they were able to transform this just so well into a masterpiece. It's just another masterpiece. It's fantastic. I can't wait to see it again. And I will definitely be purchasing this one 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. So let's see. I had a couple of notes here. So yeah, the camera work is so cool. So very much like how Danny Boyle chose to use these like home video camcorders for 28 Days Later to really immerse you in the fact of like you could just be sitting down watching this happen on your own TV. It's similar to this, where it was filmed mostly on iPhones. I think like iPhone 15 Pro Maxes or something, which I think is what my phone might be.
Wow.
And so they have these really cool, I strongly recommend looking up the behind the scenes clips on this. They had these rigs that they could strap to the actors for like when they had to run, and they would have these rigs strapped up and they were surrounded by iPhone cameras to film them as they were running, and they could just pop it on and off of people, unless I'm also mixing that up with Sinners because I watched that again today. And while it wasn't done with iPhones, I feel like they had that rigging system to do Michael B. Jordan's like double stuff. So it could be like a similar technique. But yeah, they had these really cool like rigs that were just a bar of iPhone cameras that allowed us to get, so when the infector killed in these movies, it's almost like a freeze frame that we get. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's like it circles around in like a freeze frame, and that's what the iPhone rigs are for.
Oh,
So
that's
when you
wild.
watch the behind the scenes and you see where they're using these rigs, I'm like, oh, I remember that in the movie, and that's why it looked that way. And
Yeah.
it's so cool. And you can tell at first that it's definitely filmed on an iPhone, but it's like it's framed in such a way and color graded in such a way that like it, either you get used to what it looks like or you just lose sense of like that's actually what this is. It just looks that good.
Yeah.
And I think they really pulled it off, made it look super stunning, and very much still giving you that immersive thing of like, oh yeah, this is like when I'm watching this 20 years from now, whatever technology we have then, I can rewatch this, hopefully, and then be like, oh shit, okay, yeah, wow, I remember the days of iPhones. That's when that looked like that, because that's how I watched, 28 Days Later. I'm like, dang, yeah, those old home movies look just like that. Like, totally. So I just think that Danny Boyle has such a cool mind doing that kind of stuff. And I also just need to take a nod to the excellent marketing of this movie from the first trailer. When that dropped, I read, I think this is on IMDb, that it got 60 million views or something like that, or 600 million views or something in the first 24 hours on YouTube.
Mm.
Wild.
Wow.
So the hype was there from the beginning, but also just the way that the trailer was cut with the boots sound over and
Yeah.
over, exceptional.
Yeah.
It gave you such an eerie feeling, and then the clips they intercut. Also, while I am not knocking him as an actor, I think he's a phenomenal actor. There's definitely parts where they used Aaron Taylor Johnson to draw in a crowd. 100%.
Mm.
While also using him as a wonderful actor to play a really good part in this movie. But I thought the bait and switch of being like first half of the movie with father, second half of the movie with the mother.
Yeah.
Because I was not expecting that at all. Like, I had only seen that first trailer and I didn't look up anything else. I'm like, I want to go into this as blind as I can. I don't want my expectations to be too high. And I'm glad I didn't, because yeah, it was a total switch up when I was like, oh shit, okay, we're going out with mom now. Okay. And yeah, and it's also just really cool to look back and see how the relationships differ while they're out on the mainland between Spike and Jamie versus Spike and Isla. So I thought that was really cool as well. So yeah, just a fantastic movie. Strongly recommend everyone go see it if you can. If you haven't and you just listened to all of this, I'm not sorry for spoiling it because we told you we were going to. But maybe you needed to know. Like, I know some people need to like read ahead and know the synopsis of a horror movie before they go, just so that they know what to expect. And I totally understand that.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely recommend seeing it. I can't wait for it to come out, on physical, so I can purchase it and have it in my hands forever. Did you have any last thoughts that you want to share before we wrap up our
No,
episode here?
I'm good. I'm good. I can't wait to watch it again.
Same. Yeah, I'm stoked. I can't wait. Oh, that's gonna be it for our 28 days, weeks, years later episode. Hope you enjoyed kind of flying off the cuff with us here. I know it was a little messy, but hey, sometimes you just gotta go. Sometimes there's a stream of consciousness podcast. What do you expect? So we do want to let you all know that next week is going to be a bye week in just for the holiday. So that gives you a whole 2 weeks to catch up on reading along with Flesh and Fire if you're following along with that series. We're going to be coming back in a couple weeks with A Fire in the Flesh. And so now you can So you can either catch up with your reading, or you can go back and listen to your favorite moments of us, or you can go back and listen to like favorite episodes, or just enjoy your time off. And we'll see you again on July 11th. So until then, we hope you've enjoyed this spooky, scary, not so spooky because we're weird episode. And we will see you in a couple of weeks.